Hello everyone, Shana Tova. It's customary to eat apples and honey at Rosh Hashanah for a sweet new year. One of the traditional desserts this time of year is honey cake. This was my great-grandmother's family recipe, passed down through the generations. I'm going to talk you through the steps with pictures. So the first thing you want to do is collect all of your ingredients, and all of your measuring cups and measuring spoons. Have everything ready, and then preheat your oven to 350. And oil your pan or pans. You can use 2 loaf pans or 1 large bundt pan, but you want to oil it really well. This is a sticky cake. Take all of your dry ingredients, your sugar, your baking powder, your baking soda, your spices, and your salt. Once you have all of those mixed together, add in your flour. Mix them all together really well until you have your dried mixture. You're now going to mix your wet ingredients, but not all of them. You're going to mix together your eggs, your cup of honey, and your ½ cup of vegetable oil, but set aside the 1½ cups of coffee. You're going to want to scrape all of your wet stuff into a big bowl and whisk them together until they're well mixed. At this point, you have a bowl of dry ingredients, a bowl of wet ingredients, and a separate 1½ cups of coffee. So what you're going to do now is pour about 1/3 of your dry ingredients into the bowl of wet ingredients, followed by about 1/3 of your coffee, and mix it really well. And then do that again with about another 1/3 of dry ingredients, another 1/3 of coffee, mix well, and then pour in the last of your dry ingredients and the last of your coffee. Stir it all together as well as you can. At this point, I usually get out a hand mixer so that I can get the batter really, really smooth. Once your batter is nice and smooth, you can add in optional ingredients like nuts, raisins, citrons, fresh grated lemon peel, or little chopped bits of apple. Basically, this is Jewish fruit cake at this point. I'm not adding anything this time because I already put in my dried lemon peel back at the beginning. So now that you've mixed everything and it's all nice and smooth, you're going to pour it carefully into your really well-oiled pans. I'm using a bundt pan this time, so it'll come out as a really fancy cake. And I'm grabbing a spatula so that I can get every last bit of the batter into the cake pan. So now you're going to put it in on the middle rack of your oven that you've preheated to 350, and you're going to bake it for about 50 minutes. You might want to check it at 45 minutes, especially for the loaf pans. They're going to bake faster. You can use a cake tester, or you can just get a toothpick, and you want to make sure it comes out clean. At that point, take your cake out of the oven and let it sit and cool for a bit. Don't try to get it out of the pan just yet. Once it's cooled for about 15 minutes or so, you're going to invert it onto the rack, and hopefully it'll just slide out of the pan. If it doesn't, do not panic. Turn your pan back over, get a plastic knife or a very thin plastic spatula, and very gently put it down the sides of the cake. If you've done a bundt pan, remember that you have to do the center also, not just the outsides. And then flip it over again, and it should come out. At this point, let the cake cool thoroughly until it's completely cool to the touch. At that point, you can mix up an optional topping if you want. I do a cup of powdered sugar, a ½ teaspoon more of lemon zest, a tablespoon of honey, and a tablespoon of lemon juice. Mix them together really well. I tend to mix it in a pouring measuring cup and just very slowly spoon or pour it around the top of your cake and let it drip down on both sides, inside and out if you've done a bundt cake, or just around the outside if you've done a loaf cake. And now you are ready to serve your traditional honey cake. Happy New Year. L'Shana Tova.